Have you ever wondered what has happened to the United States and its once vibrant culture? Have you ever wondered why a virtuous American culture has been in decay for over 60 to 70 years? The book Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, explains how foreign belief systems have been imported into the United States by foreign intellectual agents to be used to fundamentally transform the most prosperous and free nation in the world into a typical third world country. Learn how the progressive academics, progressive activists, large corporations, and the mainstream media have become appendages of the federal government, a Praetorian Guard, and an extension of the political vanguard class. Deus Ex Machina exposes the cogs of the machine that progresses our civil society to chaos and subjugation. Get this tool to educate others and illuminate the truth on the battlefield of ideas. Let's make a difference. Get Deus Ex Machina, the progression of secular socialism, from Amazon.com and Lulu.com today.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston? Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now. Okay, ready for me to come up? All set. Okay, I'm on the top step. It's a very simple matter to hop down from one step to the next. You get 3 more steps and then it'll open. Okay, I'm going to leave that 1 foot up there and both hands down about the 4th rung up.
Roger that. 10 miles is back down my nose. Watch one again.
And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard.
6 miles, 6 miles. Rally 2, turning into me. Roger that. 12 miles. 4 miles. Take it right. Roger that. Good throw. Got the second one.
I got the second one on the nose right now.
Hey, I'm high cover on you.
Lock him up.
What's going on, folks? Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. How y'all doing tonight? Got a great show lined up for you, as usual. And we're going to talk about the speech last night, Donald Trump's speech in, it was like a rally, man. I tell you what, like a campaign rally in Phoenix. And as predicted, we mentioned on last night's program that Donald Trump most likely would be, I don't know, basically hammering the media, hammering Jeff Flake and John McCain, which he did. He kind of played around with the maybe not naming names kind of thing, but it was obvious. We'll play a little bit of that audio tonight. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about what took place with, that collision that took place between an American Navy vessel and a freighter. And this is the second one that we've recently had, and apparently these type of things happen, but it just happens to be that these two have some similarities. And, there's some, I don't know, people get nervous. We'll talk about that tonight on the Battlefield Live radio program. So make sure you stick with us, folks. If you haven't listened to our program before, welcome. Welcome to the Battlefield. And we are on the Liberty Eagle on Facebook Live. The Liberty Eagle as well as Lanterns Buzz. So make sure you check out both of those. And also, if you have not followed us on Facebook and Twitter, make sure you go to Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and Twitter. And you can find our show page at lanterns.buzz, as well as battlefield.buzz. Check it out. We're also, our iTunes, our podcast, rather, is on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, and SoundCloud, as well as on YouTube. We are live on YouTube as well as Periscope. So stick with us on the battlefield. We'll be right back after this short break. Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network, bringing on the Blonde Battle Axe. That's right, Susan Swift on the Battlefield Live here in a moment. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live. You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris Pilier from Lanterns Media Network, the Battlefield Live radio program. Want to thank you for joining us on the battlefield today. We got a great show lined up for you as usual. And with no further ado, want to bring on the one and only Susan Swift. What's going on, Susan?
Hey, Chris, I am blessed and highly favored. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've actually seems like we kind of got some of the technical issues kind of squared away. I am actually going to have to switch my webcam over and try to see if I can resurrect that sucker and give you some video.
I can't see you.
Yeah.
I cannot see you.
Yeah, I'm going to try to work on that here. Just bear with me here. I had to give the audience had to be able to see these two beautiful faces.
Right.
So I had to shut one
Well,
of the
it's
ones
like
off.
my friend Brian says, technical problems, that's why God made young people. There you go.
Yeah,
we need to get one in here.
So I want to jump right into it. Last night, you and I have both listened to and watched the Trump rally. Was a pretty, pretty typical. I don't want to use that term to basically say it wasn't energetic, but it was to me it was a typical Trump campaign type rally. A lot of energy, a lot of the typical. Hammering of the usual suspects, right? The media, the establishment, and he had some really, really good things that he's proposing, things that he's talked about before, including tax reform. He talked about immigration and these things. And
jobs and building buildings and a beautiful. It sounded like roads and bridges. It was actually a page like out of Obama. We're going to build lots of roads and bridges, and it's going to be beautiful. I mean, he had some stock phrases in there that he kept putting in there. Jobs for America. We're going to buy American, build American. He did. There were great sections that were kind of his cookie cutter, just put it in there, and then he kind of went off script as well, which really excited the crowd. They were so excited, and it was so energetic. And my kids listened to some of it, and they were loving it, and they just loved how he just took it right to the media, and how he whipped out these little notes out of his his pocket and said, well, I have to read it to you. I don't want to bore you, but here's what I said. He's kind of thin-skinned, but you know what? He's not going to let the media create his persona or they're not going to put words in his mouth. He said, look, I called out these, neo-Nazis. I called out these white supremacists. I did it, on, Monday. And then they said, oh, it was too late. And then he goes on and he kept reading from it. And the crowd went wild. They loved it. And then there was one point in there where Trump turned around and he said, the media is so dishonest. It's very dishonest people, very dishonest people. And they all turned around and they started looking at the camera going like this, and they started booing, and they were looking at the cameras around Trump. And it was, thunderous boos. And that to me, that's more important than anything he said, because he is connecting with people and they understand what the media is doing. The media is trying to write Trump's narrative, and the people are onto it. They know.
So what is your overall, if you just had to kind of grade his performance on this, what would you say? Did he get an A, a B, or C? Is this I mean, what are your feelings about it overall?
Other than the kind of the stock phrases where it was, he would ramble a little bit off, roads and bridges, and there were a couple places where I felt like he was rambling. The best parts were where he was connecting directly to people. He is so good at that. He is a master at connecting and communicating in his style with people and connecting with them. And he knows how to read the crowd and feel the energy and say something and let them cheer and let them, there were so many times they chanted, USA, USA, USA. I mean, it was reverberating. And there was even, I think there was one person in the crowd where somebody was piping up and he said, "Oh, it's one person. They're outside. There are fewer protesters outside than there are reporters." Right. I mean, he understands the ocean waves of a crowd. He is in the times with the crowd. He's a master at that. So I would give him an A for that. Some of the messaging, he's not a polished speaker. He's very good at his style. So, but it's not what he's doing. His overall thing is to get around the media. He is cutting through the media who is attempting to block his message. You see, he's not just taking on the Democrats or even the soft limp noodles on the GOP.
Right.
He is slicing through all of that and reaching directly to people. So he is creating a new form of communication, which is through his Twitter feed, through his rallies and things. He's parting the Red Sea of the media, if you will. He's kind of like Moses, with media. So I'm going to give him an A on his style. It's his style. I don't like it. I like Reagan's style a lot better. They're better speakers, but gosh, he's good at that. He's splitting the Red Sea of media. Right. The communist Red Sea of media, and he parts like Moses, just right down the middle, and he brings it to the people, and they love it. They respond.
Right.
Hugely. They respond hugely.
Hugely. Let's do this. Let's listen to a little bit of his speech. I want to focus in on about the 50-minute period where he's talking about a unifying message, and I think this is important because he's gotten a lot of criticism over the last couple of weeks. So let's listen to this, and we'll do some commentary on it. Check this out, folks.
When one part of America hurts, we all hurt. And when one American suffers an injustice, all of America suffers together. We're all together. It's time for us to follow the example of our brave American soldiers, and I was with a lot of them last night, Fort Myers. No matter where they come from, no matter what faith they practice, they form a single, unbreakable team. That's what we are. We're a team. As a nation, we're a team.
Okay, so, this is something I think is obviously very important because, there's this division in the country right now, at least the vision or the visuals of division, right, with all these different rallies that have been taking place where, the white nationalists are out there and the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa groups. And of course the media is zooming in on this, trying to give the perspective that this is somewhat the norm. I mean, there's people that I've been talking to that are basically saying that they're, afraid of a civil war in the country. Come on, folks.
This is not. No, there is no division in this country.
There
are a couple of whack job groups who are evil, white nationalists, KKK, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, shall we go on? They're leftist groups, and they are rabble-rousing, they're trying to take away the valid election that happened when we put Trump in office. The country's not divided about it. We have the media fighting the country. The media is trying to create a war. The media is the one who is ginning up the fear and trying to say, well, do you think we're going to have a civil war? Because we're seeing all of these monuments being taken down, and they're filming all of this. They're trying to create this. Americans are not afraid of a civil war. We are not at each other's throats. The vast majority of white people are not white supremacists or in the KKK. The vast majority of black people are not in Black Lives Matter. Most people go to work, most people love their kids, and most people are united, and more of them are catching on to the media, and they're saying, I see what you guys are doing. I see what you guys are doing. It's like you are spinning this so that you get to control, and you're going to railroad us into a civil war. We're not buying it. I don't believe that there's a division. I think the media is trying its very best to propagandize and to frighten us. And that's not, Americans don't frighten. So I don't think they're buying it. I just don't. That's my, look, what do I've got to go on? That's my gut instinct. We are brave people. We are fighters, and we don't fight each other. We don't fight each other, Americans. We'll take out these idiot groups like white supremacists, neo-Nazi, KKK, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of those hate groups, Islamic terrorists, all those. We'll take them out. But that's America united against those hateful leftists. They're run by the media. The media is the media complex.
They're giving them legitimacy. They're giving them legitimacy, and they're trying
to, but we're catching on. I don't believe that they're successfully dividing us. But that is their message. That is their propaganda.
And the media has been doing this. We had some commentary last night where we talked about this a good bit, and we mentioned some of the comments that were going across the Facebook feed, and they were really people saying that. Why all of a sudden is the racism stuff? This stuff has been going on for years. And
go back to the 20s, go back to the 1800s. It's always been the left.
Right.
They use that to divide us, to brand us, because they look at the color of my skin and they say, "Oh, well, you're a white woman, therefore you are a racist."
Yeah, and so the media is perpetuating this. The mainstream, the establishment is trying to perpetuate this. The establishment doesn't like Trump. Let's do this. I want to play some more commentary from the speech, and this is basically the part where he starts talking about the Charlottesville episode. So check this out.
At the core of America. And tonight, this entire arena stands united in forceful condemnation of the thugs who perpetrate hatred and violence. But the very dishonest media, those people right up there with all the cameras,
So he's got basically his back to the crowd. He's out there, kind of ginning up. He looks kind of angry. The media is just, the people are now chanting. I mean, this is to me is a big deal for Trump, because there's no doubt that the mainstream doesn't want this guy in the office. Whether you like Trump or not, you got to admit this, right? And if you look at all the mainstream polls out there, I'll show the polls on the screen here. His approval rating is not doing well. But if you look at who the polls are with,
fake polls. Who makes the polls? The media.
Yeah.
I can't trust the polls. They were the ones that were telling us that Hillary was going to win the election. Remember all the glum faces on election night? They were shocked to see that Trump could actually win the election. I mean, they were telling us he was going to lose. So, take polls with a grain of salt too. But did you hear that crowd? Whoa, USA, the thunder, the thunder. And this is what frightens the media, because he's going around, under, over, and right through them. And he's connecting with the audience.
Well,
and those are the people that scares the media, and they are furious at him. And they didn't report a lot of this media today. They were, poo-pooing his. They actually, did you see there were several different hosts that said, well, I question his mental stability and whether he is fit for office. They're starting that drumbeat because Russia hasn't stuck. So now they're going to go for, what is it, amendment, 25, they're going to go unfit for office. I think he's unfit. He might be.
They're obviously going to be going. They're trying their hardest to be able to go for impeachment. They've been trying to impeach him before he became president.
But what they're doing is here's how they're doing it though. They are inserting into the everyday dialogue that the propaganda that they spew at us. They keep saying key words. The dog whisper word of the day is unhinged. He's unhinged. He's not right. He's unfit. They're building blocks to be able to lay out a case to the American people in the media. When they get, all they need to do is get the House in 2018, then they will bring articles of impeachment, and they'll do it based on whether he is fit for office. I think he's unhinged. Do you think he's unhinged? Yes, well, I do think he's unhinged. How about you, Liz? Oh, yes, I think he's unhinged.
So
you'll see it over and over and over again. That is their word of the day. They're trying to make us think he's nuts. That's what they're doing.
Trump is not immune to the polls. He's not immune to these type of things. This particular speech was to try to rally his base, to get out in front of the media, try to break up the nuance, or I shouldn't say the nuance, the narrative, if you will, that the media has been playing. So let's do this, Susan. Let's take a break. We're going to take a quick break, folks. When we come back, we'll listen to a little bit more of this, and we'll also talk about what's going on in the South China Sea with all of these, these collisions. So stick with us on the Battlefield Live radio program. Chris Pilier, Susan Swift, Lanterns Media Network, and the Liberty Eagle. We'll be right back after this short break.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
People often ask me, they say, Chris, how is it that we can change the minds of many in this country? And I say, well, you first don't start with the mind. You have to start with the heart. You don't change minds without changing hearts. And that's what we're going to do. It wasn't that long ago that you might have not have had hope for the country, and all of a sudden you have a change of heart. We'll expect that other people right now feel the same way that you used to. It's those people that we have to reach out to. It may be you that we have to reach out to. So it's our task to form a community, a group, unified behind principles, unified behind what has made America the country that it is now. It's about liberty. It's about freedom. And everybody wants to experience this. We just have to show them how. It's about you being a lantern shining out the light of truth. And we can bring this all together in one place. It's truly about the shining city on the hill. Hope is not in the hands of someone else. It's within ourselves. It's within our hearts. It's within our minds. And it's about utilizing those things in order to be able to make us free.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth. Battlefield Live.
Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. Want to thank you for joining us on the battlefield tonight. Folks, if you could please, if you're watching on Facebook Live right now, the Liberty Eagle or Lanterns Buzz, make sure you go and share that video. We need to try to get a whole bunch of people in here. We got a really big message tonight, and also we're going to talk about some pretty, some interesting things in regards to what's going on in the South China Sea. And we're also going to be discussing the remainder of this speech. I got a couple more clips I want to play from it. I want to give a big shout out to Marion and Joni and James over there at the Liberty Eagle, as well as Susie and Karen and Grant and Don. There's a whole bunch of it. Inga, a whole bunch of folks over there. Kimberly, make sure you all get that shared out there. We'll get as many people in this on the battlefield as possible, and we'll go from there. Also, if you have not yet, if you're over at Lanterns Buzz watching and you haven't followed the Liberty Eagle, make sure you swing over to the Liberty Eagle and follow their page, like their page, share it. And if you're over at the Liberty Eagle and you've never heard of Lanterns Buzz before, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. Brand new media network. Make sure that you swing over to Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and Twitter and like that. We're also on Spreaker. We have a Patreon account as well if you want to donate to our team, patreon.com/lanterns. And you can also find our podcast. If you're enjoying the show and you want to subscribe, you can't listen live all the time, you can get our audio podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, and SoundCloud, as well as YouTube. And, of course, we do record these videos, and we do put them up at our website at lanterns.buzz. So you'll see that we do this twice a week, and there's probably, I don't know, another 15 or 20 radio show hosts over there, as well as a bunch of radio show hosts over at the Liberty Eagle, so make sure you check them out. Susan, where can they find you on social media?
They can find me on social media at Real Susan Swift, or through my website, susanswift.net.
Awesome. So I want to play another clip from Donald Trump's speech last night in Phoenix. And, if you all are just tuning in, one of the things that kind of, I started thinking about when I was watching this is that Donald Trump really, really is good at this. I mean, look, he's not like the type of speaker like Barack Obama or Ronald Reagan, like you said, where he's just really, comes across as really, really articulate. But there's no president that I've seen that has been able to rally the troops, if you will, like Trump. Mm-hmm. And, and look, I've got my mixed feelings about him and the way that he handles himself and he does things, and sometimes he rambles and all that. But look, he comes across as an everyday American. He doesn't come across as a polished politician, and that's really what his appeal is. And some people think that they're saying, oh, he's not fit and all this stuff. No, he's not fit because in your mind, because he doesn't come across like every other freaking president that's been in office. He's coming across
exactly.
as just the standard
Joe. He's not a stuffed shirt. He's not a fake suit. He's real.
Right. So let's listen to a little bit more. We'll watch some more of the video here, and we'll get. This to me was one of the best parts of his whole speech when he's taking it to Congress. So check this out.
Oh yeah.
For our friends in the Senate. Oh boy. The Senate. Remember this. Look, the Senate. We have to get rid of what's called the filibuster rule. We have to. And
Agreed.
If we don't, the Republicans will never get anything passed. You're wasting your time.
Got to get rid of the filibuster. I agree with that.
We have to get rid of the filibuster rule. Right now, we need 60 votes, and we have 52 Republicans. That means that 8 Democrats are controlling all of this legislation. We have over 200 bills. And we have to speak to Mitch, and we have to speak to everybody. And I want to tell you, we have some great, great Republican senators. We really do. And they fought like hell to get that thing approved. They fought.
So all right, so Susan, basically, what Trump is saying here is, and folks, if she's able to watch this earlier, she's not listening, so I'm having to translate to her while we're doing this. So Donald Trump is basically speaking to Congress. He's basically saying we need to get things going forward in the Senate specifically. He's talking to Mitch McConnell. He's talking about the filibuster. The filibuster, look, a lot of people, they may not know what the filibuster is. The filibuster, is in place. It's a parliamentary procedure. It is not a constitutional procedure, but it's a parliamentary procedure. Right. It is always abused. There's some legitimate reasons why it's in place and some good reasons why it's in place. But when your opponents, when the Democrats, they actually do not, they decide to go around the filibuster and do things, with reconciliation and so forth in order to be able to get their bill of goods passed. Well, that basically all it does is nullify that particular piece. But I think what's really good here is he's basically saying there's some good senators. He's not really naming names, so he's not completely hammering the Senate, but he is taking it to.
How he said,
he is taking
talk
it to
your Arizona. Talk to your senator. Arizona, talk to your senator. Gee, who would that be? Let me think. John McCain. I think that would be Senator John McCain, right? The guy who killed the repeal of Obamacare. Right? That guy. Oh.
Yeah, so
I mean, didn't even say his name.
So he, one of the things that he's got to do is he's got to rally his base because he's got to get his poll numbers up. And I know that the poll numbers, they're not, it's hard to believe these polls, but they are out there. And so he's trying to do that, but I think he's also working to try to get. I think he's really trying to strong arm the Senate. I think he really realizes that he's got to get Mitch McConnell. He's got to get him back in line. He's got the bully pulpit. He's going to use it, and he knows that there are some elections that are coming up, and mostly the House is going to see I'm hoping we don't see a big turn in the House, but
he's also reaching to the Democrats. There was another section in the speech where he was saying, maybe we'll pick up a few Democrats. He's telegraphing to the Senate, hey. You know what? Maybe I don't need John McCain and the 6 betrayers. Maybe I can get a few Democrats who are up for re-election. They might want to vote along with me just to keep their seat because that's all he needs. So he's willing to work with whatever he needs to advance his agenda. He's telegraphing that to Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, but that's always made me nervous because, there's not a Democrat that I can see us trying to work with because the Democrats, they're lockstep. They're goose-stepping with all of their liberal socialist agenda. Now, maybe this is a rhetorical type of thing that he's trying to really push forward, and we'll see how that works out. Let's listen to one more clip. This is where he's talking about, the Arizona senators, Flake and McCain. So check this out, folks. This is pretty good.
I love this.
But they all said, Mr. President, your speech was so good last night. Please, Mr. President, don't mention any names. So I won't.
They want him to mention names.
I won't vote. One vote away. I will not mention any names.
One vote away.
Very
He's talking about
presidential,
McCain.
Isn't it? Very presidential. And nobody wants me to talk about your other senator, who's weak on borders, weak on crime. So I won't talk about him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants me to talk about him. No.
So basically, he's hammering these 2 senators without naming names, but every single one of them knows
who the hell he is. Remember yesterday, last night, you were saying I think you should talk about Flake, and I'm like, oh, that guy to nobody. Nobody even cares who he is. And Trump goes out and says, oh, nobody even knows who the hell he is. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that. That just made me laugh out loud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we can look at Jeff Flake and we can look at John McCain, and there's not a whole lot that these guys do that are positive for the American people. I mean, and look, I know that they
help the Democrats. They're really good at helping the Democrats.
Yeah, and
I'll give them that.
And it's from a conservative point of view, they only vote conservative like under 20% of the time, right?
Right.
So, and look, I just really truly think that Donald Trump has to take it to these senators, and he's got to be able to rally the congressmen that are really supporting him, and I think that's what he's got to do. I think he's got to name names. And look,
he did, but without, and it was so cute the way he said, "Oh, I'm very presidential. I'm not going to name names, but talk to your senator." I mean, how many senators are there in the state? Right, 2. So it's John McCain. It's Flake. I mean, that was brilliant, and it was funny, and it was like flirting with the crowd a little bit. It was delightful. It was really funny.
Well, I could say that there's a lot of pro-Trump folks over at the Liberty Eagle and Lantern's Buzz, and people standing with their president. And look, we have to stand with our president when he does the right thing, and if he does things that are not along the lines of what's good for the country, then we have to stand up and say, look, Mr. President, that's not what we put you in office for. And I think that as of right now, his biggest challenge is really truly getting Congress in line and doing what they promised they would do. They've been breaking a lot of promises. So let's do this, Susan. We're going to take another break. We're going to come back right after the short break, people. And stick with us on the Battlefield Live radio program, Lanterns, Buzz, and the Liberty Eagle. We'll be right back after the short pause.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Battlefield Live.
When the federal government that is intended to protect the people grows and grows and grows out of control and spreads across the boundaries that are put on it by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, this is what happens. All of the good intentions that have been put into the NSA and all these different agencies and all these different tentacles of the Leviathan that we call the federal government, they're now being used against us. The good intentions have bled out. Now they become arms of political power. So as the Trump administration's coming in and the Obama administration's going out, the Obama administration used tactics in order to try to undermine and delegitimize Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, whether you are an Obama supporter or not, think about that for a moment. That your tax dollars, your rights that you have given to the government, for the most part, in order to so-called, quote-unquote, protect you from evil terrorists, have been used against you, the American people. And just because you didn't support Trump doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you. Because guess what? The next guy that comes into office, and he's a Democrat or a progressive, what do you think Donald Trump's going to do? If he's got his establishment out there. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but he could, and there's precedent for it. If we don't talk about this right now, and we don't get our federal government in order, this is going to continue. It's only going to get worse.
Lanterns changing hearts to change minds.
Lanterns illuminating the truth.
What's going on, folks? Y'all listening to the Battlefield Live radio program from Lanterns Media Network, as well as the Liberty Eagle. I want to thank you for sticking with us through the break. And we still got a good bit of show left to go. And I want to shift gears a little bit here. I want to talk about what's actually going on in the South China Sea. And Susan, you know by watching the news, there's been two collisions that have taken place in that region. One just this last week, where you have a naval vessel, a United States naval vessel. We had the John McCain, and we also had the USS Fitzgerald. Yeah, I know. There's always a collision going on with
I love the
John McCain.
symbolism of John McCain bashing into, a capitalism ship that's transporting goods from Liberia.
Yeah.
I think that's just too good. You can't make this stuff up.
He tends to bump into a lot of things. So I mean,
he does. Poor guy.
So tends to be bumping into, Lindsey Graham,
the other woman.
There's some kind of bumping going on, bumping and grinding, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to figure all that stuff out. But anyway, by the way,
it's a big black eye on the Navy. I mean, this is what two wrecks in a summer. I mean, for them to have two wrecks in 5 years is a big thing. And somebody's head rolled over at Navy. I mean, the commander in chief of the Navy, I forgot his name. I heard he he was allowed to step down or leave. So
Yeah.
that's kind of sad.
So let's kind of walk out the situation here. And look, many of you may not understand what takes place on these boats and things like that. And look, by all means, I was not in the military. My father was an officer in the Navy, so I've talked to him about this, and I've also done a little bit of reading. So I understand the basics, but you got to also put into play that we're dealing with the most sophisticated military in world history, not just now, in world history. And look, if you understand the amount of electronics on these ships that prevent these type of situations, this should be a rarity, especially when it comes down to the Navy. I'd understand if it's, we're talking about maybe an oil tanker or something where we got some civilians that are on there piloting the ship. We're talking about people that are highly trained specialists on driving the most sophisticated equipment that the world has ever known. So basically this what takes place. You got the United States naval vessel that's traveling in one direction, and you have a tanker traveling in another direction. And all of a sudden, if you watch the path of, and you could see this online, you can look it up online, but if you watch the path of this other vessel, it starts to wiggle and wobble a little bit, and then all of a sudden it takes a sharp turn towards a ship and runs into our ship. Okay?
The Liberian the vessel, the merchant vessel.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what's really puzzling here is that you have the possibility that and look, think about it like this.
Was it intentional?
Well,
was it intentional?
We don't know.
Is it an act of terrorism?
It could be. So if you think about it like this, there's thousands and thousands of ships that travel the waters, and the Navy is aware of every single one of them. Okay, every single one of them, and they watch every single one of them all the time. They have navigation teams that are on these ships and these vessels that keep an eye on. They got satellites all around the world that are watching these boats. There's not boats that get very close to naval vessels without actually having an issue, right? So this collision just isn't something that just happens all the time. This is really a real true rarity. And the fact of the matter is that the fact that we actually have a collision means that the United States vessel couldn't take maneuvers that it needed to take in order to be able to avoid this collision. So there's a speculation out there. And right now it's real pure speculation.
They're doing an investigation. We got to be clear that they're just doing an investigation. That's what they said is, look, we've got to investigate what's going on and we'll find out.
Right.
But if they're minding their own business and heading on their course, you can only avoid something so much if something is really truly turning right in your path at the last minute. There might be culpability on the other ship, is all you're saying.
Well,
there might be a reason.
Well, it could be that, and if the United States, the Navy, the vessel itself, didn't have the ability to counteract the movement of this other ship. I mean, ships don't get that close where they can just go, uh-oh, and boom, they bump into stuff. I mean, if they get really close to a naval vessel, the Navy's going to let them know that they better move or they're going to be blown out of the water. I mean, but ships are, you can't, they're not like cars where you can stop on a dime with they
brakes.
Can't.
Like, I mean, I drive a big old Chevy and I can put the brakes on and I can come to a pretty quick stop, but boats move through waters.
That's
and
right.
you have to jam the reverse engines and try to back it up and try to stop it. It doesn't come to a stop quickly.
Right.
So that it requires room to maneuver. And if somebody is truly intending to crash into you, that kind of is a little bit hard. But I know what you're saying is, how come they're that close
how come are they that
right?
close, and how come, I mean, I know that you just can't turn one of these things around on a dime, right? These are big vessels. Right. It takes
big
a
boats.
lot to slow them down. But you know that when you're operating these vessels, they understand how to maneuver these things.
That's why you're trained, right? That's why the deckies are trained to avoid this kind of situation,
look,
right?
I understand we have human beings at the wheel, if you will. There's really a wheel. There's human beings that are operating these things, but they go through the measures to prevent these type of incidents. This is not like all of a sudden, they I don't know, something really weird happens. This is like something very basic. It's like, a tank driving off of a cliff. You don't make a navigation mistake like that.
But you know what? Wait, let's wait and find out. Let's find out what
agree.
the facts are. What happened? I mean, if there was somebody who was supposed to be on duty and was asleep or didn't attend watch, that's different, you know. But let's find out. Let's hold our fire. We don't know why this happened.
I agree. And what, you know, look, we're number one, we're not a news outlet where we're trying to just simply report the news. We're actually creating commentary here, and whenever we see smoke, there's got to be fire, right? Whenever there's smoke, there's got to be fire. So these are things that we should be looking for. And look, if I'm in the State Department, or I'm in the Defense Department rather, and I all of a sudden something comes across my desk that says your ship was hacked, I'm not going, hey guys, guess what? We have a problem. We got hacked. No, they're not going to do that, right? And they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't talk about their vulnerabilities. But the bottom line is that something's rotten in Denmark. Whenever there's smoke, there's got to be fire. And I'm just saying that if this
now, are you just saying this because you've got a G.I. Joe Army shirt on and you don't like the Navy?
You like my G.I. Joe shirt? You know where I got this? I got this at Walmart.
Where?
I got this at Walmart.
I love Walmart.
Yeah,
and I love G.I. Joe.
I actually got I got ridiculed by my son, who's 17, and I got ridiculed. My wife said, you are turning more into look, I wore an Astros jersey yesterday. She gave me a hard time about that. Now she gave me a hard time about that.
She should be really happy you're wearing a different shirt. It's clean. This is good.
I don't know if I'm supposed to wear a suit with my hat backwards because I can't show what's underneath this thing.
You should. Oh, that would be such a good signature. You have all dressed up and you get your hat on backwards.
Yes.
That could be your signature thing there.
It could be. Well, what's happened is there's really no hair under here. There's just computer chips because I'm in.
So is that why you wear a shirt? There's no hair under there either?
Yeah. I look like a woolly mammoth under this thing. Just saying.
Okay, we've gone too far. We have now.
We went way. We veered way off course. We're about to run into a ship here.
No, we are not. I don't want to take off the shirt. No. Okay, let's get back to. Do you think that there could be hackers into the? We're going to divert. You know, like that Liberian ship.
That's what I'm saying. We almost ran aground on the ship here, the battlefield.
What makes you think that hackers could be controlling that Navy ship? Could they have hacked into our navigation system? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, that's what. All right. So the next phase of war is the technology war, right? Cyber hackers, things like that. There's no secret that there's Russian hackers, Chinese hackers, maybe even Korean hackers with their little antenna and stuff like that.
Oh, like the NSA and the CIA. Remember when WikiLeaks dumped all of those, the uber stealth of our NSA and everything. I mean, they have codes out there that make it look like Russia was hacking you when it really wasn't Russia. They can transplant basically digital fingerprints onto things. So there is some high level stuff.
So do you think if we had a high level security hack, maybe, I don't know, some top security stuff that was maybe, I don't know, like maybe in the bathroom of Hillary Clinton's bathroom that got hacked?
Yeah, somewhere like that.
Something like that. That maybe it was hacked and they found, some plans for one of these ships. I don't know. I mean, this is the type of stuff we're dealing with now.
Remember, look, Clinton was the one who handed the Chinese the nuclear codes and things. Not the codes, but remember way back when we were young, Clinton was the one who communicated a lot of our nuclear capability to the Chinese. Gave it to them.
That's right. BJ.
And his wife, former Secretary of State, and Cackle Pants, whatever her name is. It drives me nuts. But she had state secrets on her unsecured server in a bathroom, and we already know from the ongoing investigation that there were how many? 30 or 40? Top secret, beyond super secret messages. Maybe what you're saying is there's technology there that can take, it's not something like out of Star Trek, that we can take control over another ship's controls by sending a code over, just like out of a Star Trek movie where we just communicate, send it over, and we take over their steering.
I don't think that Hillary Clinton's like Princess Leia and she's holding like the battle plans of the Death Star and all that. And I would imagine that they're probably not sharing with her, secret engineering designs of these battleships. But the bottom line is, if they're hacking into her stuff, could they also hack into other things? Right. So the war
through a back door.
Yeah.
You don't know.
The war that we're fighting right now, that a lot of people don't see. and we're pretty much insulated from it because it is a digital war. It's one that's with zeros and ones. We don't get to see this stuff because, quite honestly, nobody wants us to see it. And if I was a guy that was running the Pentagon, and we were actually fighting a literal digital war, I do not want to alarm the public unless there's a real true need to do so. And I'm going to fight that war as long as I can without a bunch of people finding out. And I would expect that they would do that. I'm not saying that they're doing this maliciously, but these are the type of things that our government is fighting all the time.
And they couldn't tell us anyway. I mean, they people who are, I mean, loyal Americans who would be working for our government with these kind of levels of secrets are bound to silence. They can't leak to the media. That's what Democrats do. You know,
Right.
Yeah, go ask a Democrat on the, the subcommittee for, safety in naval vessels. They'll leak to you, but not regular folks who believe in America who are working in these positions. They would never betray. And so we might never ever find out where these, if that technology is even possible. Unless WikiLeaks pulls it up. God help us.
Well, I mean, that's fine. So, I mean, the thing is that we're dealing with a situation where the government, as they always are, the government is sluggish. The government, while at the same time they may have the greatest technology out there, they don't move very well. And I would like to think that
because they're bloated and fat.
That's right. That's right. And
like an 800-pound man on a couch in front of a TV.
Yeah. And so, I mean, look, the bottom line is that we have to be prepared to basically, we got to be prepared for this. And look, one of the things that I really fear, my biggest fear, and look, I'm like anybody else, I read the news and I see things and I try to connect the dots where I see them. One of the things that we're seeing right now is a lot of speculation that there's going to be problems in the market. Now, some of this could be that people are trying to shake things up because they don't like Trump. They may be trying to, the markets have been doing really well under Trump, and maybe there's some of this. The big bankers are coming out and saying that the market is unstable, and maybe they're trying to, affect the image of the president in the economy. The economy is doing well right now.
That would be so evil. Well, that sounds like a George Soros thing.
And
I mean, he made a bunch of money tanking the British market, made bazillions.
Well, we know
but that's an evil thing to do.
We know that home sales has slowed. That's something that came out. We also know that there's a lot of issues with school loans. So they say there's the bubble in the school loan market. They're also saying there's a bubble in the car loan market, which is really, really odd. But that's the case. And if we have some problems where people start foreclosing, or it's not real foreclosing, but reneging on their car loans, and all of a sudden there's a problem in the market, right? And so there's
what
some
if
legitimate
China calls
concerns.
our debt?
Well,
What if China
I don't
calls
think
our-
that would happen. I think that would be an extreme thing because China needs us. Look, China went after North Korea, or I shouldn't say went after North Korea. They kind of threatened North Korea that they wouldn't help North Korea out. And the reason why is because the Chinese need us more than they need the North Koreans. So I'm not as concerned, at least on the surface of China. I'm more concerned about all the back deals that are going on, the cyber warfare, all those things from the Chinese. So I just don't think that we're going to have that kind of issue. But we are going to be due for some type of correction. It happens all the time in the market, and that is a vulnerability. And all it takes is something crazy to happen. If we have, another one of these vessels that runs into a vessel and they find out that this is some hacking situation, we could be going to war. And if that happens, first of all, if that is truly happening, we need to go to war, or at least we need to try to figure out a way that to prevent this. But I mean, if this is something that hackers are doing from Russia and China, I mean, that's an act of war, right? So
it's treasonous. Or if it's these little jerks in the basement somewhere and in their pajamas and they're hacking in for fun. I mean, look, it's those weirdo people who wear the mask with the little mustache. They're not Antifa, but they're these weirdo,
That's the anonymous
what's the name of that?
Anonymous.
Those creepy people.
Yeah, it's
but
the
they do it
anonymous
just
people.
for fun. It's like a game to these.
It's somewhat of the
it is
same
like a
kind of
game,
crowd. It's
like a
somewhat of the
big
same crowd.
video game.
Yeah, it's the same kind of crowd. It's the Guy Fawkes thing, which is, if you ever
That's
watch
it.
that movie. Yeah, I mean, these are all the anarchists, the people that don't like the establishment. They're anarchists, and they're the alt-right. There's a lot of those factions in there that are playing off of the insecurities of the American people as well as people around the world. Wendy makes a good point here on the Liberty Eagle. She says, if we raise the debt ceiling, don't you think that would affect the market? I truly do believe that will affect the market, Wendy. But the way it's affecting the market is different than what people think. The big it's V for Vendetta was the name of the movie. The big corporations that are on K Street, they love when they raise the debt ceiling. Those things will those businesses will be positive in the people that are investing in those companies will be positive in the market for that. But what that does is it creates a distortion in value. That's what creates bubbles. I don't want to get into too much of that type of stuff here on the battlefield at this point in the game. But the point is that it negatively affects the market, but it may appear that the market's doing better than what it really is. And I think that really is the case. And look, we may have a little slight correction like we always do. It is the nature of the market. But the point is that we could be in a very fragile state, right? We have all this stuff going on like the Charlottesville stuff around the country. We got war drums being drummed over there in North Korea. There's instability in the region, with in Afghanistan, like there have been for years. All of these different things kind of play into this real global collision.
And we have the Republicans who will not get behind their elected candidate, and they are not helping move the agenda. So we're having a war in the Congress. The Congress is warring against the president. So the president he's got to be paying attention to North Korea, China in the South China Sea, Afghanistan, and all of those moving parts, plus the domestic uproar and in local states and what are these anarchists going to do, and the Congress, who is, I guess, bound and determined to make sure that Obamacare really does continue to exist and keep our medical system socialized instead of freeing our government from that burden, because they shouldn't have it anyway. The federal government should not be in charge of a private matter like medical care. That's ridiculous. But Trump is in the middle of not just an outside war, there's an inside war against him from the media and also from Congress.
That's right.
In the GOP, I mean, we could expect it from the Democrats. They're sorry losers anyway. They're always whining, But now from McConnell and Ryan, they're both sitting on their hands going, well, yep, it's tough being president, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not going to help at all.
And that's exactly
and
right.
That's the war he's fighting.
They've stonewalled Trump. They're not giving in to anything that he wants to do. They're trying to basically make his presidency a failure. They want this. And look, we read the article yesterday, or at least the headline of the article in the New York Times that McConnell is behind the scenes talking about Trump's failed presidency. At what point did you hear, ping pong ball eyes Pelosi and what's the other goofball, the guy that had like cream of wheat dripping down his face, Harry Reid, yeah, that old geriatric. I mean, he basically. You never heard them say anything negative about Barack Obama, right? They were part of the team, lockstep, goose-stepping,
They know better.
Yeah, to the fascist drum.
But see, they all have the same united message. Republicans eat their own.
Right.
They don't know how to even at least unite and say, hey, let's get 80% of our agenda done.
Right.
Let's take the 80% and we'll come back for the 20%. I mean, a lot of people hated Reagan too.
Right.
And he had to drag them through victory too. We have these silly these rhinos. They don't know how to win.
I like what Wendy's got here. Wendy says Ted Cruz for majority leader. Hey, we got 30 seconds left, Susan. 30 seconds left. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Oh, they can find me on social media at Real Susan Swift, and they can find me through my website, susanswift.net. And yes, Ted Cruz for Senate Majority Leader.
I love it. I love it. Great idea, Wendy. Wendy on the Liberty Eagle. Folks, if you have not yet, make sure you go over to Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you like the page and follow us on Twitter. Also, make sure you go over to the Liberty Eagle on Facebook and follow that page as well. Make sure that you follow us as well on Spreaker. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, and SoundCloud, as well as YouTube. We do this show twice a week, but we have a bunch of other compatriots over at lanterns.buzz, the website lanterns.buzz. Make sure you go there, subscribe to our newsletter, get on the battlefield, and we will make this happen again next week. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on Tuesday and Wednesday next week on the Liberty Eagle as well as Lanterns Buzz. Thank you for joining us on the battlefield, and we will be back next week. Thank you for joining us on the Battlefield Live radio program. Talk to you later, Tater.